And so, all right, we got Necromancer Games, now Frog God Games, Troll Lord Games, you
Yep.
mentioned Goodman Games, Kinzer and Company, 77 Worlds, Planet X Games, Pulp Comic Games, Gamehole Con Games, Ominous Glow. Do they
Yeah.
also have games at the end of it, or is it just Ominous Glow?
I don't know if they're going with games yet. I think so, but they're really new. It's a couple guys that approached me. Keith Hershey's one of them, and Arvin Donner, another one. Arvin actually came out to North Texas this year and got to play in one of my games. They first approached me about doing some writing, but I, for one, had some bad writer's block. For two, I had other obligations I had to finish before I take anybody else's writing gigs. And but I have time to do art all the time. My day job is I teach, oddly enough, gaming concepts and art, illustration, and design. So gaming concepts is aligned with esports because esports is paying out more scholarships right now than the entire NCAA, is what I've been told. Yeah, that seems pretty shocking, but if you look who's behind esports, that's NVIDIA, Microsoft, Intel,
People with
Amazon
money.
Game Pass. So yeah, you get where I'm going. Sony, all the big names in tech are sponsoring teams. You know, we have some big fans of our RPGs that are in the tech field, and they own some fairly substantial peripheral companies, right? And they put a lot of money into esports. So the esports scholarships are a real deal. Not to mention the fact that, you know, we have, and recently we've had a high school kid, he's getting paid to train other people.
And he's still in high
And
school.
yeah, he's either graduating this year or he just graduated. I can't remember which. He's a great kid, and he's been recruited by a lot of the pro league players since he was like 15, 16 years old. So
Wow.
the problem with the current esports thing is that the leagues will just suddenly collapse, right? Or they'll say that the leagues aren't kind of like in the old days of NBA basketball and the old days of football. You'd have a football league pop up and, you know, crash and burn, or some other upstart league starts out, gets folded into the main thing, that sort of deal. So they're experiencing growing pains like that right now. There's also people who feel there isn't real competition because not everyone always ends up playing on the world level, on the world stage, right? So you have tons and tons of teams in Asia that don't necessarily ever compete against the ones in the States or the ones in Europe and South America and so on and so forth. But it's a whole thing. So that's and they got me into it because part of you know, I design games, I develop games, I've been working in games, and role playing games, pen and paper role playing games are the foundation of every video game, hands down. It's a big thing for me to be able to be part of that. And it's kind of like, you know, how weights is to football or how your health class is to gym class, right? Teaching you how to do CPR, teaching you how to be, say, a clean individual, right? Body sanitation and cleanliness and that kind of thing. And so we go over that stuff in class, things like how to comport yourself online without being a bigot or a piece of crap, you know, how to watch your language so that you don't cost your team points. And I'll use Travis Kelce as an example because we live in the Wichita area, and you know, he's Kansas City Chiefs. This is Chiefs Kingdom over here, and you know, I say, hey, you remember before Patrick Mahomes played when Travis Kelce cost his team 150 yards worth of penalties every game? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, because he threw temper tantrums and he had a fit and he wasn't a good teammate. And his brother made fun of him publicly until he started getting his head right. Don't be one of those guys when you're at an esports event, because if you cost your team points, they're not going to like you anymore. You
So
know,
you're
just basic.
saying public ridicule and shame can correct bad behavior
Hey, you
sometimes.
know,
It
we can
does.
infer whatever we want, but at the end of the day, being critiqued by your peers for your performance and your behavior is one of the biggest motivators to being better.
Wow. I totally wasn't expecting to hear any of that. And that's what I'm talking about. This guy's interesting. See, like I have this list of questions and I know stuff he's into. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
didn't at all. That's really neat and that's good. And what you were talking about reminded me of some of the things I've heard Lawrence Schick talk about
Mm,
because I've been watching some of his interviews and how what role-playing game designers and this kind of systems and thought processes that y'all have come up with feeds so strongly into the modern gaming scene and has for decades.
yeah, yeah. I was blessed about 12 years ago to be able to interview him for exactly the same kind of thing. So, yeah.
Whoa.
Yeah, I was like, hey, I teach this kind of stuff in school and I do this kind of thing. And he gave me like 15, 20 minutes of his time at North Texas at the old location.